A dark room. A VR headset sits on a wooden table, glowing with pulsing blue light. The camera slowly zooms in on the device as mysterious electronic sounds hum in the background. Suddenly, the door creaks open. A figure steps into frame. It's him, George Washington, first President of the United States, commander of the Continental Army, the man who could not tell a lie, and right now, he looks utterly confused. His eyes fix on the strange glowing contraption before him. He reaches out cautiously, his fingers hovering inches from the headset. He's seen muskets, cannons, and crude telescopes in his time, but this is something else entirely. Washington picks up the headset, turning it over in his hands. The blue light reflects off his puzzled face. He examines the straps, the lenses, the mysterious buttons. His brow furrows deeper with each passing second. After a moment of contemplation, he takes a breath. Then, with the same courage that carried him across the Delaware, he places the headset over his eyes. The world around him vanishes. Washington's hands fly up instinctively. He's standing, but he's no longer in the dark room. He's somewhere else. Somewhere impossible. Before him stretches a perfect digital recreation of Mount Vernon, his home. But not quite. Everything is too clean, too precise, too lifeless. He takes a tentative step forward. The floorboards don't creak. They don't feel real beneath his feet. Yet he can see them clear as day. He reaches out to touch a wall. His hand passes through it slightly before meeting resistance. He jerks back, startled. What manner of sorcery is this? A glowing menu appears before him, floating in midair. Words he can read. Welcome to the American History Experience. Select your journey. Below are options, each one illuminated with strange symbols and images he's never seen before. Washington stares at the menu, his head tilting like a confused dog. He tentatively reaches out, and his finger makes contact with one option. Revolutionary War. Valley Forge. The world dissolves. Snow. Bitter, biting snow. Washington finds himself standing in the middle of Valley Forge, winter of 1777 to 78. But this isn't a memory. This is something else. Digital snowflakes fall around him, each one rendered with impossible perfection. He can see his breath, feel the cold, hear the wind. In the distance, crude log cabins dot the landscape. Smoke rises from chimneys, and there, walking past him as if he weren't there, are his soldiers. They look gaunt, exhausted, their feet wrapped in rags, leaving bloody footprints in the snow. Washington's expression shifts from confusion to something deeper. Pain, recognition, memory. He remembers this. The suffering, the doubt, the moment when everything could have fallen apart. One soldier walks directly through him. Washington flinches, then realizes he's a ghost in this world. An observer, he watches as the digital soldiers gather around fires, their faces hollow but determined. A voice echoes through the virtual space, narrating the scene. Winter at Valley Forge. Of the 12,000 soldiers who entered camp, nearly 2,500 would die from disease, exposure, and starvation. Yet the Continental Army emerged stronger, more disciplined, more unified. Washington stands in silence, watching. His jaw tightens. He knows this story. He lived it. But seeing it again, rendered in this strange new medium, brings a weight he hadn't expected. He raises his hand, and the scene pauses. The snow freezes mid-fall. The soldiers become statues. He walks between them, studying their faces. After a long moment, he continues forward. The scene shifts violently. Suddenly, Washington is on a ship, the Griffin's Wharf, Boston Harbor. Night, December 16th, 1773. Around him, men disguised as Mohawk Indians are hauling crates onto the deck. He knows this event, though he wasn't present for it. The act that sparked everything. He watches as the first crate is smashed open. Tea pours out, glittering in the moonlight. Then, with a heave, the entire crate is thrown overboard. The splash is crisp, detailed, almost musical. More crates follow. Dozens, hundreds. The virtual water churns with floating tea leaves. The harbor transforms into a massive, absurd tea bath. Washington's mouth twitches. Is that almost a smile? He observes the scene with what might be amusement. The sheer audacity of it. The theater of it all. Grown men, dressed as indigenous people, dumping perfectly good tea into the harbor as an act of defiance against the crown. One of the digital protesters runs past him, shouting, "No taxation without representation!" The cry echoes across the harbor. Washington nods slowly. Rebellion, sometimes messy, often absurd, but necessary. He gestures forward, and the scene dissolves again. Now he stands in the Pennsylvania State House. Philadelphia, July 4th, 1776. The room is thick with summer heat. Men in powdered wigs and formal coats sit around tables, fanning themselves with papers. At the front of the room, a document sits on a desk, the Declaration of Independence. Washington approaches it slowly. The words glow slightly as he nears. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. He's read these words before, of course, but in this moment, suspended in virtual space, they carry a different weight. He watches as digital versions of the Founding Fathers step forward, one by one, to sign the document. John Hancock's signature sprawls large and defiant across the page. Benjamin Franklin adds his name with a satisfied nod. Thomas Jefferson stands to the side, nervous, watching his words become immortal. Washington observes in silence. He wasn't in this room that day. He was in New York, preparing for battle. But he understood what this document meant. It wasn't just a declaration. It was a promise, an impossible, beautiful promise. The scene lingers. Washington's hand hovers over the document, but he doesn't touch it. He simply stands there, watching history crystallize. The virtual world shifts once more. Same building, different year. 1787. The Constitutional Convention. This time, Washington was here. He presided over this gathering, and now, he watches a digital recreation of himself standing at the front of the room, maintaining order as the delegates argue. It's bizarre, seeing oneself from the outside. The digital Washington looks stern, composed, presidential. The real Washington, watching from the corner of the virtual room, looks oddly vulnerable. The debates are heated. Slavery, representation, federal power versus state sovereignty. Voices rise, tempers flare. His digital counterpart remains calm, a steady presence amid the chaos. One delegate pounds the table. "We are creating a tyrant, a king by another name." Another responds, "We are creating order from anarchy. Without a strong executive, we will fracture and fall." The real Washington watches these arguments play out. His face is unreadable. These debates nearly tore the young nation apart before it truly began. Compromise was the only path forward. Messy, imperfect compromise. The scene shows the final signing. 39 men step forward to sign the Constitution. Not unanimous. Never unanimous. But enough. Washington exhales slowly. The foundation was laid. Imperfect, yes, but a foundation nonetheless. The virtual landscape transforms into rural Pennsylvania. 1794. The Whiskey Rebellion. Washington finds himself on horseback, riding at the head of a massive army. His army, 13,000 militiamen, marching to suppress an armed uprising of farmers who refused to pay a federal tax on whiskey. The irony isn't lost on him. He led a revolution against unjust taxation. Now, As president, he's enforcing federal taxes with military force. The digital landscape shows burning barns, angry farmers with muskets, federal tax collectors tarred and feathered. It's ugly, chaotic, the kind of disorder that terrified the founding fathers. Washington watches his digital self give orders. Firm, unwavering, the federal government's authority must be established. Laws must be enforced, even unpopular ones. The rebellion collapses without major bloodshed. The farmers disperse. Order is restored. But Washington's expression is complicated. This wasn't glory. This was necessity, the hard, unglamorous work of building a functioning government. He waves his hand, moving past this scene quickly. The final historical scene. 1796, Washington stands in his study at Mount Vernon, writing his farewell address, his last message to the American people as president. The virtual Washington sits at his desk, quill in hand, writing by candlelight. The real Washington stands behind him, reading over his own shoulder. The words appear in the air as they're written. The alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, natural to party dissension, is itself a frightful despotism, a warning against political parties, against foreign entanglements, against disunity. Washington's face darkens as he reads his own words. He watches his younger self write with urgency, with genuine concern for the nation's future. The digital Washington sets down the quill. He looks tired, relieved to be stepping away from power. 2 terms was enough. No man should hold power indefinitely. That was the lesson of monarchy. The real Washington nods at this. He made the right choice, setting a precedent for peaceful transfer of power, for voluntary relinquishment of authority. But as the scene fades, a question lingers in his eyes. Did they listen? Did any of his warnings matter? The virtual world explodes into color and chaos. George Washington is suddenly standing in the middle of Times Square, 2025. Massive digital billboards tower above him, flashing advertisements, news, entertainment. Cars honk. People rush past, faces buried in glowing rectangles. Music blares from every direction. Languages he doesn't recognize mix in the air. He turns slowly, taking it all in. His face cycles through emotions: shock, confusion, awe, concern. A digital tour guide appears beside him, a friendly, glowing avatar. Welcome to modern America. Population, 340 million. GDP, over $25 trillion. The world's largest economy and most powerful military. Washington blinks. 340 million? In his time, the entire nation held fewer than 4 million souls. The scene shifts. He's shown images in rapid succession. Skyscrapers, highways, airplanes, the internet, medical technology, space exploration. The tour guide narrates cheerfully, highlighting achievements, progress, innovation. But Washington's attention is drawn elsewhere. Between the images of achievement, he sees flashes of division, political rallies filled with anger, news headlines screaming contradictions, people shouting at each other across digital divides. The tour guide continues, oblivious. America remains a beacon of democracy and freedom to the world. Washington's expression is unreadable. Is it? Or has something been lost in all this progress? He raises his hand. The virtual tour stops. Silence. Washington stands alone in a white void. The VR experience has ended, but he hasn't removed the headset yet. He's processing, thinking. The man who led a revolution and founded a nation has just witnessed what became of his impossible dream. 340 million people. Technologies beyond imagination, wealth and power unmatched in human history, and yet, still arguing about the same fundamental questions: liberty versus order, unity versus faction, the individual versus the collective. Some things, it seems, are eternal. Washington reaches up and slowly removes the VR headset. The blue light fades. He's back in the dark room. Back in the present. Or is it the present? Time feels strange now. He sets the headset down gently on the table. His hand lingers on it for a moment. Then, for the first time in this entire experience, he speaks. Fascinating. The word hangs in the air. Not approval, not disapproval, just observation. The acknowledgement that history continues, for better or worse, with or without its architects. George Washington turns and walks toward the door. He pauses at the threshold, looking back at the glowing headset one last time. Then he steps through and closes the door behind him. The headset continues to glow in the darkness, waiting for the next visitor to take the journey.